Hello, hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and Oregon Live, dedicated to the adventure and exploration of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Chiara Profena, and together we take you to some of the most beautiful and interesting destinations in our region, discussing where to go, what to do, and places to see. And today we're taking advantage of some hot and sunny weather to head up to the slopes of Mount Hood.
Yeah, Mount Hood is obviously known for its skiing, especially late in the season, as we've talked about here in the podcast before. But at this point in the year, the mountain has really pretty much transitioned fully into its summer mode. So we're talking about, hiking, mountain biking opportunities, swimming in the lakes, but we're also talking about ziplining, about aerial parks, all kinds of fun stuff. All these big summer activities. And by July, I feel like Mount Hood ski areas have pretty much completed their summer transformation, offering all of these non-snow related activities, especially I think aimed at families who are looking for something to do during summer break, or anyone who's just looking for a different way to get out on the mountain.
Right. And mountain isn't just for snow sports. So here to tell us all about these summer activities going on at one of those summer destinations is Mike Quinn, Vice President and General Manager of Mount Hood Skibowl. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
So we're kind of now in the full swing of summer. So how has that transition from the snowy, wintry season kind of been going?
It's been going great. We've had a really good spring. We oftentimes there's the real heavy lift closing down our winter season, especially if winter hangs on into the spring with plentiful snowfall. This year was kind of an average shutdown. It's kind of tapered off normally, if you will, and allowed our crews to get hard at work in April and May, and got us open on time June 14th and 15th, and summer's rolling.
Awesome. So what does that transformation look like? How do you shift gears from being a ski area to a all-purpose summer activities area?
Well, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. Most of our park, summer adventure park, really goes away in the fall. We literally completely dismantle it. Most everything. About 85% of our park actually goes away in the wintertime. So right as soon as October 1st hits, we start the production of tearing things down, getting ready for the winter, and then it's kind of a repeat, just the opposite. We usually start by farming some of the snow out of the way to give us a little bit of a jump start on the melt, and then we really start rebuilding the park. And it takes literally 6 weeks to do. So it's kind of crunch time. As soon as that snow starts melting, we try to expedite it a little bit with machines. And then hopefully the spring really kind of sets in with some nice weather and allows us to kind of get to work. But if winter lingers around, it becomes a little more challenging.
And so you mentioned some of that really nice weather. Can you tell us a bit about what the vibe is on the mountain during the summertime?
Yeah, the vibe is amazing in the summertime. We're kind of getting into a little bit of a hot stretch right now, but it's still so much cooler on the mountains than it is kind of in town. So that's kind of like our blessing in disguise. And it's just so beautiful. I mean, the summers here on Mount Hood are just amazing. And we usually kind of go through 90 to 110 days of sunshine. And so it's just spectacular.
When you talked about dismantling and putting all this stuff back up, all of this infrastructure, what are we talking about here? What are the structures you're building? What are the things that people can expect to see that they might not see in the winter?
Well, probably the biggest transformation is Skibowl Raceway. At Skibowl East, we predominantly where we do our cosmic and regular tubing, winter tubing, and that whole entire parking lot transforms and becomes two raceways for our Indy cars and our sprint cars, and it's combined of two major racetracks that take up the entire parking lot, and that's done with kind of a combination of barricades, concrete barricades, split rail fencing, and tires. So that whole area gets taken down and made a parking lot in the wintertime, and then all gets transferred back. The the couple of the bigger attractions that really don't go away is our iconic alpine slide that stays in the ground, and the aerial park actually stays erect and up during the season. So our bungee tower stays. We put a lot of the equipment away and wrap it up and winterize it, but those activities stay. Everything else really kind of gets taken away and stored for the winter season.
And so you said a raceway. Can you tell us a bit about what you're setting up there, what that activity is?
Yeah, sure. We actually have two types of carts. We have our Indy carts that are they're made for 18 years old and older that have a driver license, and those are really thrilling. And then we also have sprint cars that are made for adults too, but also teens that are 52 inches tall can start driving them themselves. So
it sounds like you've got so much going on over there. So I mean, aside from the cars, I mean, you've kind of alluded to a couple things here and there, but can you give us like a rundown of what kinds of activities you offer?
So at Skibowl West, we have a scenic sky chair, actually two scenic sky chairs that can bring you up to the summit of Skibowl, and you can do some hiking around. We have interpretive trails, two courses of disc golf. We have a 9-hole and an 18-hole disc golf that's chairlift assisted. So that kind of winds you, starting at a higher elevation, winds you right down into the base area. And then we transform over to Skibowl East, where we have our Skibowl Raceway that I spoke about. We have batting cages, summer tubing, mini golf, zip lining, treetop tours, bungee jumping. We have a new mining sluice where you can kind of search for gems in your pay dirt bag. So that's new that we're unveiling this year, and a whole bunch of other activities.
So the mining is a new offering. Have most of these been around for a while?
Yeah, I would say most of our attractions have been around for probably 15 years or thereabouts. We're really putting some new emphasis on our disc golf course this year. We've kind of taken that off of some of the traditional trails, and it kind of winds in and out of the woods a little bit to provide some shade and the different challenges. And we've really spent a lot of time and effort into reinventing our interpretive trail system. So we have over 7 trails that are signed with educational signs from foliage and or other things that you can see in the forest, and then it kind of culminates with Skibowl Peak, where you can actually see 2 states, Washington and Oregon, and 5 mountains from the top. So it's an amazing view up there.
I feel like in the summertime in Mount Hood, people I talked about going to the lakes, obviously, or some of the waterfalls, or some of the bigger wilderness hikes. But it sounds like you're offering something that's totally different, more of an activity center, a place where people can come and do all of these different kinds of activities that also happens to be like on the slope of this volcano.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we're kind of uniquely positioned where we're spread, like I said, we're spread across the just about 1,000 acres, a mile apart from one base area to the other. So not only do we have all these attractions that you can offer, but we also try to get you to explore the mountain through our uphill chairlift system, as well as our interpretive trails. Some of them wind uphill, some of them go east and west from one base area to the other. And it just provides another type of experience, in addition to those attractions that we talked about. This is actually a way to kind of, get yourself acquainted or familiarize yourself with the forest. And you don't have to go on these strenuous hikes or these really remote places. You can access both of them from each of our base area.
Do you have maybe any particular favorites of these activities, or maybe what's most popular among people?
I mean, we're really kind of just getting started with that. Probably for different reasons, I guess, but the Summit Trail, which starts at it can actually start in Government Camp, or it can start at Skibowl West, depending on which end of it you're at. But it really connects our east base area to our west base area with a 1.2 really easy, mild hike. And it crosses a stream at least in 2 places, if not 3. And it's very shaded, and it's just a really nice hike that gets you to the other attractions. So if you wanted to take a little bit of a break from some of the attractions and move on over to the other ones, it's a great way to get there. And I'd say the other one, for a different reason, is just the breathtaking views from the summit, is the Tom Dick hike, which gets you from our top chairlift out to the ridge of Tom, Dick, and Harry Peak, which overlooks Mirror Lake as well. So, which is a really popular hike in the Mount Hood area.
Mike, you mentioned the sort of connection to the landscape of exploring and learning about it. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about the, importance or the appeal even of making those kinds of connections, or making those, or learning about the forest in this way, especially for folks who maybe are used to seeing Mount Hood covered in snow. Why come back, and what can they learn if they come back and, explore in this summertime?
That's a great question, Jamie. I think, it's a different perspective, and the mountain is so exposed, and you can see it from so far away, and it's enormous. And sometimes when people get here, they're not even sure they ask, where's Mount Hood? And because you kind of get lost in it when you're traveling to it, and you're up so close. So I think it gives you another aspect and another perspective that you might not see just by looking at the mountain and the beauty of the timberline and the snow-capped mountain provides. There's just so much more to explore on Mount Hood, and Skibowl, I think, is given another opportunity to kind of get yourself acquainted with what the forest has to offer.
And I know you have a lot of different things that you offer, kind of something for everybody, but is there maybe something that you would like to offer in the future, or any other activities kind of in the works?
Actually, we are planning, we're in the process of a NEPA analysis with the Forest Service right now for a mountain coaster. We're looking to complement our existing alpine slide with a mountain coaster, which is very similar to an alpine slide, but it actually rides on rails, and it's raised above the ground. So we're looking at trying to marry our interpretive trail systems with this new ride and attraction called the mountain coaster, which on the ride up, it's a self-contained ride similar to a roller coaster where you actually ride up sitting on your cart. And we'll be looking to integrate our interpretive trail systems into that uphill part of the attraction. So it'll be another way to kind of spin that forest / educational component into an attraction. And we're hoping that we're in our second year of planning for that. And we're hoping within the next 2 years or so, we'll have that approved and potentially installed. So that's kind of on the horizon, which is really exciting.
So you mentioned the uphill portion of that. Is there then, you had this nice learning experience going uphill, and then you turn around and have this nice fast trip downhill?
That's precisely what it would be. It would be a slower learning adventure on the way up, and then a thrilling adventure on the way down. With
you still
really
try to educate
amazing
people on the way down? Does a person just talk really fast?
No, we want people to pay attention to what they're doing on the way down.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I know I've been super curious about trying out the alpine slide. I haven't been up there during the summer, but that's the one that always catches my attention.
It's been around for so long, and it's still kind of like our most iconic and sought after attraction. It just really provides an experience like no other. You're totally in control. You're not on a track. Well, you're in a track, but you're not on rails. So you're completely 100% in control of your experience. And that's very different than most attractions have to offer at adventure parks.
Mike, I wanted to ask you with, I keep thinking about the seasonality of Mount Hood and the timing of a lot of times of when ski areas open, when the summertime stuff opens. With the climate continuing to warm, with summers getting hotter and hotter, have you sort of thought about, is there more room in your season? Do you open stuff up earlier? Do you keep it open later? How does the climate change of it all affect your thought process and planning for these summer activities?
We are certainly summer centric with a lot of our planning. Winter is still kind of our anchor, right? It's what our primary business and driver is. But that being said, summer is offering us an opportunity to provide jobs for people year round and provide an opportunity to carry employees on a year round basis. So that's very helpful. But Um, we invested in an all-weather snowmaking system to support our tubing and cosmic tubing for the winter time. And since we've made that investment, we've been able to open on time the Friday after Thanksgiving every year for the past 5 years. So that is kind of an example of how we are adapting to kind of the weather and or the climate around us, and doing what we can to provide a more set schedule for a very weather dependent operation.
Is there on sort of I hear you're talking about sort of the winter planning and all that. Is there, I would imagine that if you have an earlier spring, say, or like if the summer season expands into like May, October, November, like, do you imagine keeping some of the summer stuff open a little bit later, or the summer stuff coming out a little bit earlier, or you're trying to like sort of like how does that all
Yeah,
work?
generally speaking, we don't really extend summer operations because the indicators for a delayed winter or a warmer winter really aren't there that early in the season. We have ever opened our summer park earlier if the winter isn't really strong and early ends early. We have ever opened the alpine slide and or some of the summer attractions earlier than normally scheduled, but we pretty much stick to the kind of starts of the season or planning the starts of the season. It just may get pushed or delayed slightly.
And for most of these activities, about until when can people enjoy them? Is there like a set cutoff date for this year?
Yeah, we operate 6 days a week through Labor Day, and then for the month of September, we're weekends weather dependent until October. And so we open usually the second week of June, and we are 6 days a week through the summer until Labor Day, and then we're weekends only.
So a great summer vacation destination. Do you see a lot of families coming through? A lot of people on summer break?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That primarily that's what we see.
Is it a lot of like local families, or do you get folks coming in from out of the area to come check out Skibowl in the summer?
It's a good mixture of both. I mean, there's people that are, ironically, there's people not only from town that haven't visited us before. They didn't know about Skibowl, so they're just getting up for the first time. So that's really cool. We have repeat business that are local, as well as the destination travelers that are coming to just either visit Mount Hood or actually just traveling by. So we kind of get a nice mix of all of those demographics.
And so we kind of talked about all the different activities and offerings, but can you tell us a bit about the food scene up there? What can people get to eat?
The food scene's pretty interesting. Government Camp's got a nice eclectic kind of choice of things to have. The Rathskeller Pizzeria is probably one of the most popular here in town. It's also operated by us. The Mount Hood Brew Pub across the street is really nice too for local beers and fare. We operate a taco truck here at Skibowl West, and then we have a full bar to complement that with indoor dining, as well as on the east side we have our multi-floor 70 meters bar and grill. So there's offerings all over the place.
So people don't just need to pack a PB&J.
No,
they can get
all.
food there.
No, not at all.
Well,
so from like start to finish, you can really make this a whole kind of day trip, even probably stay a couple nights, I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely. We are trying to, we paired up with Collins Lake Resort. And if you stay at Collins Lake Resort, depending on whether you stay midweek or you stay over the weekend, you get great discounts, up to 50% off of the park here at Skibowl. So that's a really good way to kind of extend your stay and maybe go to Eastern Oregon and visit one of the lakes that we talked about, on your second day or your first day. And then you can catch us either on the way in or the way out, or both potentially.
Well, for folks who want to do like, say, a day trip up there at Skibowl, or even, make a weekend out of it, how do you recommend they make the most out of their time at Skibowl?
Spend a little bit of time, educating yourself on what we have to offer on our website. Kind of choose your attractions before your arrival, or at least get your questions ready. And then you can kind of direct your stay around which attractions you wanted to kind of visit first, and you can get them out of the way either early before the crowd kind of comes, or you can make that a plan on the way out when the crowd dissipates a little bit. But I'd probably say a little bit of planning. You can also get your best pricing in advance through our website. You'll pay a little bit more day of on site. So a little bit of pre-planning goes a long way, and then ask any questions because we're here to help.
And so can you tell us a bit about the admission prices and the operating hours for these activities? Are they different for every single one, or how does that work?
Yeah, they're so different. We offer every attraction a la carte. Actually, that was it's a new pricing strategy that we have for this summer. A lot of people were asking for individual things. We had a little bit more packaged pricing previously. We still have that. We offer primarily 2 passes that include some of the activities. We don't offer any one package that offers all of the activities, simply from a throughput reason. Some of our aerial attractions don't quite have the capacity of some of the other attractions, like the alpine slide, that can handle more people. So the big differentiators between our inclusive packages are the amount of alpine slide rides you get. And then depending on what you do, there's just so many offerings, depending on what you want to do. There's just a lot to offer. So I'd probably tell your best bet is to go to our website and check it out.
Mike, I know we had you here to talk about Skibowl, but I want to give you the chance to shout out any other sort of non-Skibowl stuff on Mount Hood. What else should folks check out? Where should they go while they're up there?
Well, just outside of the Mount Hood corridor, if you head a little bit towards the east, there's Kanita Hot Springs is something amazing to see. There's really cool soaking tubs and cold plunges that you can do, and also Lake Sentustus is a great place for paddle boards, non-motorized boating and kayaking, as well as pontoon boat rentals and overnight stays. And then, of course, it's always worth seeing Timberline Lodge if you're up on Mount Hood.
Yeah, of course, you're not the only ski area on Mount Hood doing summer activities. You've got your competitors as well, or maybe friendly competitors. I'm not sure how you want to put that, but Mount Hood Meadows also doing some stuff. Timberline also doing a lot of similar stuff out there.
Yeah,
so it seems like you are in good company.
Yeah, we are in great company. We have a really great working relationship with Timberline. We offer a shared pass in the winter with the Fusion product. And Mount Hood Meadows has always done a great job.
Oh, great. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Really appreciate you sharing everything going on at Skibowl. And thanks for coming on and talking all about it.
You bet. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, folks, that will do it for us for today. Until next time, you can watch our videos on the Oregonians YouTube channel and view all of our travel and outdoors coverage on OregonLive.com/travel, as well as HereIsOregon.com.
Please leave us a rating or review if you enjoy the show, and if you want to support this podcast as well as our local journalism, please consider a subscription to Oregon Live. You can find the details at OregonLive.com/subscribe. Also, if you're a fan of the show and you're interested in potentially sponsoring us, you can get in touch with our marketing people at advertise@oregonian.com. This episode of the show was produced by me alongside Jamie Hale, Vicky Connor, and Teresa Mahoney.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this 10 seconds of Zen.